Hi, and welcome to this core session focusing on supporting your lower back. We're going to start off, you need no equipment for this session. We're going to start off on your back, and we're going to start off with a bridge exercise. So all the verbal cues and the tactile, so where I ask you to pop your hands, in this practice will be aimed at getting your brain to recognize where your lower back is sitting, if you're putting too much tension through it, and overall how to offload your lower back. So usually the area of our body that gets sore is because we're putting too much load, too much pressure, too much muscle tension in that area. And we're going to try change that. So 2 simple exercises, a bridge and a side plank. Let's get started. Starting off, you want to feel where your lower back and pelvis is. So arch your back away from the ground and just slide a hand in between your lower back and the mat. And then flatten your back down into the ground, and you shouldn't be able to slide a hand in. So they're the 2 extreme positions that you can have your back in. I want everyone to rest in the middle. So there should be a slight dip in your lower back. You should just be able to slide your hand under. If you place your hands on your pelvis when that lower back movement's happening, so if we flatten the lower back, you'll feel your pelvis roll up towards your head and chest. And if you arch your lower back away from the floor, you'll feel your pelvis, if it was like a ball, roll towards your feet. So your pelvis and lower back, they move together. So you can have your hand on your lower back or your pelvis, whichever one you have a better feel for. And if you're really tight, it can be hard to feel that movement in that area. Right, so we're going to start off and get our back and pelvis in neutral. So if you put your hands on your pelvis, everyone, roll your pelvis forward towards your feet slightly and feel a little dip or space between your lower back and the floor. So that's set. Now bring your hands down low to your hip joints. Press through both feet and drive the hips up towards the ceiling. If you feel any tension in your lower back, bring your attention to your rib cage for a second. Some of us tend to flare our rib cage up, which brings loads of tension in our lower back muscles. So if you are one of those people, hug your lower ribs in a little and see if that gets rid of the lower back tension. Then fold at your hips to lower down. We're going to aim for 12 repetitions of every exercise because we're trying to build endurance in the muscles that stabilizes. And we're trying to teach our body not to use the muscles that attach into our spine all the time, but to use our bigger butt muscles in this exercise. Hands around the hips because all the movement is coming through the hips and all the work is coming from the muscles at the back of our hips. So when you lower the hips down, you should just feel your tailbone or your pelvis touch down onto the ground first, and your lower back keeps that little dip in it. It does not push down into the ground. We got 6 more repetitions to go-ish. I'm not the best at counting, so it's more about how you do the exercise, not doing the very strict 12 reps. That makes the difference. Again, lift up and stay up for the next one and just notice what's working. What I want you to feel is a little bit of the bum muscles working, maybe a bit of the hamstring. If you feel anything in your lower back, hug the front ribs in a little, lower your hips a little. And continuing on for our last 4. Lower the hips down, and we're going to roll onto our side for our next exercise, which is a side plank. So we're going to work the big abdominal muscles that go from our ribs to our pelvis. So again, we're going to check in with our back position before we go up. So pop your hand on your pelvis, the top side. Think about sticking your bum out a little. That will create that natural curve in your lower back. So I don't want anyone with a tucked in bum and a really flat back. So stick your tailbone out or you'll feel the pelvis rock forward. And at the same time, you can put your hand on your lower back and you should feel a slight dip or a curve in your lower back. It shouldn't be flat. Once that's all set, make sure your elbows under your shoulder Knees one on top of the other, and hips are stacked one on top of the other. So don't let that top hip fall forward. And then push down through the arm and the legs and lift your hips and your waist off the mat. Place your right hand on your breastbone and just think about lifting the breastbone up a little so it looks straight ahead. Shoulders are stacked, hips are stacked. And we're going to be here for about 30 seconds. So staying up in your side plank, pressing into the arm and the legs, feeling the muscles working on that bottom side, the left side of your tummy, to hold you up. And we have another 10-15 seconds here. Keep your head back in line with your spine. Try not to let it drop down or fall forward. Keep breathing in through your nose and out through your nose or mouth. And last 10 seconds. Lifting the hips a little bit higher, like they're getting pulled up towards the ceiling to make those muscles work a little harder. Last 5 seconds. And then lower the hips down and move over to the other side to do your other side plank. You can also notice if there's a difference between sides. Get your elbow underneath your shoulder. Again, we're going to pay attention to our lower back in this video. So put your hand on your lower back. If it feels really flat, can you think about creating a little bit of a curve in it? So you can do that by getting your tailbone or your bum to stick out slightly behind you. Once you're happy with that, press down through the arm and the legs and lift up. Make sure your head is in line with your spine, it's not falling forward. Put your hand on your chest and think about that breastbone. If there was a light shining out of it, it's shining straight out. It's not shining down to the floor. That'll make your shoulders nice and stacked. And having everything lined up will really help the muscles on the right side of your tummy kick in. Got another 15 seconds about here. Focus on breathing in through your nose and out through your nose or mouth during this exercise. I don't want anyone bracing or holding their breath. Think about those hips being pulled up towards the ceiling, and we're on our last 10 seconds. Last 5, make sure that the shoulder blade is hugging against the back of the rib cage so you don't feel any discomfort in your shoulder. And lower the hips down, have a lie onto your back, and just hug your knees into your chest for a moment and have a rock from side to side. So we'll just do a little knee hug stretch in between each round of the exercises. And then back at it we go again. So into our bridge exercise, hands on your pelvis. You can rock it towards your feet, the lower back arches. Rock it towards your chest, the lower back flattens. And then rest in like a middle ground. So if you put your hand under your lower back, there's just enough space to squeeze your hand in. Then bring the hands down to the hips where all the work and the movement is going to come from. Push your feet into the ground. That'll help turn on your bum muscles and drive your hips up towards the ceiling. And then fold at the hips to lower down, and you'll feel your pelvis or your tailbone touch down on the mat first, not your lower back. And we're going for 12 repetitions of these. We're aiming for 12. If you do more than 12, it is totally fine. And again, you're going at your own pace. I'm going quite slow because I want you to learn how to do it well. But if you're doing this video for like the 5th or 6th time and you're very used to keeping your back neutral and engaging your hips, you can blast through your 12 reps a little bit faster. If you feel any tension in your lower back, just check in and make sure you're not flaring your front ribs. Hug them in. Last 6 repetitions of your bridge. You should start to feel some tension building up in your bum muscles as you're doing this. And I want no discomfort in the back. If there is discomfort in the back, this exercise might just not be for you, and that's okay. There's no one magic exercise that fixes everything. And last 2. And last 1. Cool, and then moving into our side plank again, so have a roll onto your right side. Let's check in with our lower back. So put your hand on your hips, pelvis, and you can tuck your bum in, stick your bum out, and you want to rest in the middle of those two movements for you. And then place your hand on your lower back, and you just want to feel a slight dip or curve in your lower back. It shouldn't be flattened or rounded. Then when you're ready, press down through the right arm and the legs. Lift your hips and your waist away from the ground. Put your hand on your breastbone, lift your breastbone so that if there was a light on it, it shines straight ahead. Keep your head in line with your spine, and we're here for another 20 seconds-ish. You're breathing in through your nose and out through your nose or mouth during this exercise. Don't hold your breath. Last 15 seconds. Feel the right shoulder blade hug against your upper back to take any load off the front of the shoulder. Press the hips or think about them being pulled up towards the ceiling. Last 5 seconds. You should feel the muscles on the side of your waist starting to work or shake a little. And then lower down, and let's move over to the other side for your last round. Get your elbow underneath your shoulder, knees stacked, hips stacked, shoulders stacked. Pop your hand on your lower back, or put your hand on your lower back, and create a little bit of a dip in your lower back, so it shouldn't be flat or rounded. And use your hands to feel, because if your body's used to having it rounded, it'll just feel really normal to you, and having that bit of a dip might feel a bit strange. Press down through the arm and the legs, lift the hips. And we're here for about 30 seconds. Press your bum forward a little. Get that breastbone shining straight ahead. Put your hand on it to get it there. And then you can place that top hand back on your hip. Keeping your head in line with your spine. You're breathing in through your nose and out through your nose or mouth. Keep thinking about the hips getting pulled up towards the ceiling. Your ribs connected in, so your tummy muscles work a little bit better. Don't let the ribs flare. And last 10 seconds here. Keep lifting the hips up, pressing through the arm and the legs to support you. Last 5 seconds. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose or mouth. And then lower the hips down. Let's have a lie onto our backs. Hug our knees into our chest. And have a rock from side to side. One last little round, 12 reps of your bridge. Get your back in neutral. So a dip in the lower back, a little dip. Ribs connected down, so you have a bit of support of your tummy as well doing this exercise. And hands on the hips where all the work is going to come from. Lift the hips, lower the hips. We're going for 12 repetitions at a pace that suits you. So if you can feel your bum turning on nicely, no tension in the back, you can increase the pace to get through your 12 reps if you wish. Otherwise, if you're just learning to hold your body differently and turn on your muscles, slow is better. It's more effective. And last 6 repetitions. Pushing through your feet will help to engage your butt muscles. So don't think about clenching or gripping your butt cheeks. Think about pushing your feet into the ground. And it's a much more effective way to turn on your butt muscles. Last 3, 2, and last 1. Have a roll onto your side, going into our last little round of side planks. Get your elbow under your shoulder. Check in with that curve in your lower back again, that your bum is sticking out a little bit. And then lift the hips up. Breastbone shining straight ahead. Shoulders stacked, hips stacked, one on top of the other. Head in line with your spine. Try not to clench your fist really tightly like I was, because I'm trying to remember the instructions. So relax the hand. Otherwise you can build up a lot of tension through your arm and your shoulder too much. Breathing in through your nose and out through your nose or mouth. And you're here for another 10 seconds. Think about those hips getting pulled up towards the ceiling. Imagine a string from your hips pulling them up. Last 5. And then lower the hips down and move over to your other side for your last exercise in this session, getting into your side plank on the left. Tailbone sticking out a little bit to get that dip. Ribs connect in to give you the support of the front tummy muscles. And then press into the left arm, into the legs, up you go. Breastbone shines straight ahead, last 30 seconds. Bring the head back in line with the spine. Try not to let it drop. Press through the arm, the forearm, to push your chest or your waist away from the floor. Press through the legs, so think about lifting the hips up. And have that hand nice and relaxed. Got another 10 seconds here. You're breathing in through your nose and out through your nose or mouth. Focusing on your breath will stop you using a bracing, gripping strategy, which kind of builds up too much tension around the back and the spine. So we want to be able to support our body and breathe at the same time. Last 5 seconds. And then lower the hips down. Come into a seated position and you're all finished with your core session for lower back.